Hi everyone, my name is Tech Sergeant Beddard. I'm with the Hollerman Development Group. I want to thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be joined by Dakota Hughes, one of my good friends. We were stationed at Minot together for a while in the 791, and then he went on to bigger and better things. But today he's going to be telling us his story of his mental health struggles, what happened beforehand, how he went through it, and what help he got to help him cope through everything. There's a powerful message in this story, but first, Dakota, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you've been up to since you got out of the military?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dakota. My name is Dakota Hughes. I did 12 years in the Air Force, just recently retired here in February. As a Master Sergeant, did my first 10 years as security forces, and then did my final 2 years in logistics plans, which is an LRS. I'm originally from Texas. I was stationed my first base was at Barksdale in Louisiana. Second base was in Minot, North Dakota. And then my third base as a logistics planner was in Abilene, Texas. Deployed a few times, nowhere crazy. Went to UAE, went to Norway, a few TDYs and stuff like that. But basically I was Global Strike my whole career, so I was a nuke troop, and that's mostly what I did. Did some fun stuff in the military. Had some good opportunities. I was a game warden for 4 years. Even got to be a command chief's exec for 2 years, which is probably the most biggest growth I've ever seen in my career and personal life. So if you get a chance to do that, definitely recommend it. But yeah, it's pretty short about me. Divorced, I have 3 kids. Yeah, that's basically who I am. So what have I been to since I've been out of the military? So I started terminal leave back in beginning of December. I was able to find a job relatively fast. I mean, I applied at probably over 100 places. I found a job pretty fast. I worked as an animal control officer. Sadly, that didn't work out. Was just recently let go from that job. But mainly, for me, since I've been out of the military, it's been a huge transition. I think the transition is said a lot about how hard it is, transitioning out of the military and trying to come back into normal life. I'm 29 years old. As I said before, I did 12 years. I enlisted at 17 years old. I was still technically supposed to be a junior in high school when I was in basic training. So I joined really young. So the military was really my whole life. It's pretty much all I knew in that type of environment. So transitioning has been really hard, fitting in or trying to fit in with everybody, and also, just trying to be a part of the team. And yeah, transition has been really hard, really stressful. I do have my education. I have a bachelor's degree and 2 associate's degrees. I have my experience and everything like that, but trying to find the right place and trying to find out what I want in life and trying to find out who I am. It's a journey. I'll get there, but yeah, it's definitely, the transition's a lot harder than I thought it would be. And trying to fit in with everybody and trying to find yourself after the military is tough. And they tell you about that stuff, but yeah, it's definitely a lot tougher than I thought it would be.
Thanks for that update, Dakota. Sounds like you're making the best of it being outside of the military. It can be tough sometimes, but glad to hear from you. So I guess we can get right into it. Dakota, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and let us know where your mental health struggles began.
For me, I would say my mental health struggles definitely have some trauma from when I was a child. I definitely grew up. I had a good life. My parents were good parents. I think they did the best they could. I had a really good father that is still a huge mentor to me today. I can't say it enough, but I grew up with like a mentally ill sibling, like severely mentally ill. And I think that's really where like my mental health issues began, because growing up with him was definitely traumatic. I didn't realize how fucked up the situation was until I got much older. Looking back at my life and now having kids of my own, definitely tough. Growing up with someone that's extremely mentally ill, and then the parents don't know what to do. He basically used to try to kill me a lot when I was a kid, and I know a lot of siblings say that stuff, like I just wanted to kill my brother and stuff like that. But no, when I was a kid, like this was like a real thing, or it was for me. I was younger. I was by far the youngest. And he would pull knives on me, and he would try to stab me, and there was a lot of fear about like me hurting him and stuff. But yeah, I would say it began there in my childhood. In the military though, like the trauma for me, how it all began. As I said before, I was security forces. I was at Barksdale. At the time, I was a game warden. It was just a section that we had at Barksdale. If you ever go to Barksdale and you love the outdoors, definitely something I would recommend. But basically, I was there on shift one day. Nothing crazy. It was me and my supervisor, Sergeant Wells. We were on shift, and a lot of the details are blurry for me because sadly I did get PTSD from it, so just bear with me. But basically, we got dispatched to a call early in the morning, where the game warden office was at. It was actually relatively close to base housing on the east side of the base. So we got a call for a medical emergency going on. I believe something along the lines of like a 4-year-old daughter, in that time frame, toddler, ran to the neighbor's house and said, "My mommy's not waking up." So they called the police, and I can't remember if they dispatched us directly or not, or if we just said, "Hey, we're the closest we can go." But long story short, we ended up being the first ones there. Me and my supervisor get out. I was probably maybe a senior airman at the time. I was probably 20, 21 years old, maybe 20, 21 in that time frame. Me and my supervisor, we run up to the house, and I remember as soon as we pulled up, there was a lady outside. She was crying. She was holding the child, really frantic, sad. So me and my supervisor, we run in, and he told me to go. I went one way, and I was looking in the bedrooms and everything like that, trying to find the lady, that we got a call about. I ended up finding her on the bed. And at first she's unresponsive. I'm just, checking. I check her pulse. I remember I check her wrist and see if I could feel a pulse. I remember I check her neck. And then the last thing I did, like, I put my cheek to her nose, and I remember I could feel her slightly breathing, like an extremely low breath. That part's important because I never told anybody that, so about almost 10 years later. So we get her off the bed. Long story short, we ended up doing CPR. Did CPR on her for about 15 to 20 minutes. While we were doing CPR, blood and vomit was coming out of her mouth. So when we would do CPR again, you would have the taste of blood and vomit in your mouth. It was getting on my uniform. I remember the child was in the background, like screaming and crying, her daughter. And I never told anybody that I felt her breathe. And I think that for me, it was just incredibly sad. She ended up passing away. They deemed her, deceased there that day. I never told my supervisor or anybody that I felt her breathe. I was looking back now, like, I don't know why. It doesn't make any logical sense to me why. I can only tell you that I was kind of afraid, and I was scared, like maybe, I don't know, maybe I was making stuff up in my head. I didn't want to, I don't know. And also like acknowledging it that she was alive, and then that we couldn't save her, and that she ended up dying that day. Felt a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I felt like I let her. She was married to a military member. He was a tech sergeant. Um, I felt like I let him down. I felt like I let her daughter down. So it was really tough for me. Didn't really talk about it. I was young and naive. I remember we left the house. The husband was outside holding his daughter. He was talking to his first sergeant, bawling his eyes out. This was pretty early in the morning, maybe around 8 or 9 or something like that. We ended up just leaving the house, and I remember we just went back with our day. I mean, I know it's what you do, and I tried to be as normal and kind of just do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just try to go on my day and pretend like it was normal, that it didn't bother me, it didn't affect me at all. My dad was a cop growing up. He's now retired. But I remember thinking, like, there's people in my squadron that have gone to Iraq or gotten Bronze Stars. My dad has seen countless bodies. My uncle's also in law enforcement. Cops every day see, you can see multiple dead bodies a day. So basically I talked myself out of it and basically just said, like, this ain't shit. Stop being soft about it and just ignored it. I guess another like traumatic thing about that event is that it definitely like put immediately one of the things that happened was, so since we had contact with her blood and vomit, they wanted us to give blood. And still looking back, this is still kind of fucked up, but basically we had to give blood, me and my supervisor, because me and him gave CPR over the next few weeks. And I remember asking, like, why are we having to do this? Did she have like a disease, or she have AIDS, or I don't know. I was young, and they wouldn't tell us. They said it was due to HIPAA. So me, being young and stupid, I didn't want to tell my wife at the time what happened at work. So I didn't tell her what happened, and I only had one child at the time. My child was around probably like three or four. So I didn't tell anybody what happened. So I came home, and my way of protecting them was to push them away. I was scared to talk to, kiss them, touch them, be intimate with my wife, because I was scared that I was going to give them something if I had it, but I was also too scared and ashamed to tell my wife at the time what happened, because I felt like I let myself down. I let the lady down. I felt like I let her family down. I felt ashamed that I couldn't save her life. I was angry. So that was really traumatic. Fast forward a long time, end up in Minot, North Dakota. I ended up in Minot, and I was there in Minot for probably about, 2 years. And this is probably about 7 years after that initial incident when I was 20 years old. But over the 7-year period, my personality started changing. I became a lot more anxious, incredibly anxious. I was having night terrors all the time. I was irritable, short-tempered, angry. Um, I was just a completely different person, and I can't explain it, but it came on slow, it was gradual. Over the years, it changed who I was, and at the time, PTSD wasn't even like a thought for me. I wasn't diagnosed yet or anything like that. I was just like pushing through. I didn't talk about that shit at all. I just, I buried it, didn't talk about it, and I just pushed through. I said it wasn't that big of a deal. I wasn't in combat. I wasn't deployed. It really wasn't shit. So, yeah, I mean, my personality definitely changed. My brain reacted, and my mind and how I was, my personality was changing because of the event. I know this now because I've gone through so much therapy, but at the time I didn't know what was going on. But yeah, that's probably definitely where like my mental health struggles began, is that like big event. And then sadly, I think like the major like triggering event for me, like what pushed me over the edge, is my oldest sister, who was we were extremely close. Right after or before I tried to take my life the first time, she ended up taking her life, and she committed suicide. And losing my sister was just one of the saddest moments of my life. She was like a second mother to me, and it was devastating. It changed my life then, and my life has still changed drastically because of that loss. And I think that loss, combined with everything else, my childhood trauma, that lady dying while we were trying to help her, and then losing my sister, like, it just pushed me over the edge. And then, yeah, that's probably where like the majority of my mental health struggles began.
Wow, thanks for sharing that, Dakota. It was really brave of you to share your story. Not a lot of people are able to come forward and tell their story, and it's I can imagine it's pretty difficult. But thank you for letting us know what you went through, and you have a lot of influence in telling others your story. Uh, it's a shame you had to go through all that, but we're glad to see you're still alive and able to make influences outside of the military.